What up? What up? What up, everybody? Live Reality Games podcast. And tonight we are back with another Survivor Angelica Medieval Mayhem recap show. We're going to be recapping episode 6 titled Like It's Okay. It is okay. Tonight's going to be something special. We're mixing it up a little bit. Normally we jump right into the recap, but we're going to go a little bit early and we're going to talk to the man, Jason, and Chris, host, production, owners, CEOs, operators, you name it. They do everything when it comes to Survivor Angelica, but they wanted to hop on and give us their take on how they see the season going, how they put things together, challenges from a production end, things that we saw, things that we didn't see, just the whole nine. It's going to be a great episode tonight, so I'm looking forward to them. So no better time than the present. Let's bring them on. Jason, Chris, what up? How we doing?
Doing well, DB. Doing well.
Hey, it's good to see y'all's faces again. I know in Florida we're starting to thaw out from what was blistering 40 and 30 degree weather, which, I mean, you guys don't really care to hear that story because there's probably snow around and you're shoveling driveways and doing all the stuff that goes into that. And I'm not jealous or envious of that. Like there was a time where I wanted to see a lot of snow, but this ain't it. I'm over those days. But I appreciate y'all coming on. Jason, you messaged me last week and you were like, hey man, there's some things that I want to go over, like production wise, from our vantage point, from where we see it, because in the game as a player, you have a lens and you're seeing the things happen, but you're not seeing the whole picture. But from a production standpoint, you're behind the camera and you can be in a lot of places and you can see a lot of things that not all the players are seeing. So you have like a different picture of how the game is moving, who's doing well, who's not doing well, things to kind of look out for, the challenges that are coming up and who you think might do well or not, or just a lot of different vantage points that you have from behind the camera or as a host where you're seeing it, everything play out in front of you. But I'll start with you, Jason. From a production standpoint, obviously there's things that players are saying and they may not be seeing, but for you, what are some of the things that you want to get across as far as what we need to know from a production standpoint or from a host standpoint?
For the host standpoint, one of the things we always try to do is just to get people to be a little bit animated. Just people interview with us and they got great casting videos. They're great in their Zoom interviews. And then we get them on we're like, wow, they got to be in this. And then they show up and it's like, and we're like, whoa, what happened to this explosive player? And I get it, right? Like people, they want to change their game up. They want to lay low key. They can't always be this, crazy personality, which we don't want all crazy personalities, but the ones that you think are going to be end up not being. And the ones that you were like, they were very quiet, laid back. They're the ones that all of a sudden step forward and they're a huge personality. So one thing we try to do is try to mix it up and add elements to the game that will hopefully start to stir that pot a little bit and get people to open up. So that's one thing. Another thing is, being behind the camera for a few seasons myself, Chris being a camera guy too for a few times, we've seen how people act when they're not at tribal and we see how they act at challenges versus when they're at camp. And so when we meet together as a production crew, we're like, all right, what can we do to switch this up a little bit, get people to get involved, get active. And our biggest challenge always is on a 3-day game, people are going home. Typically, if we ran a challenge starting at 1 o'clock, by probably 3 o'clock, somebody's going home if we ran a traditional game of Survivor. So this year was, let's keep people in the game as long as possible. Let's give people a chance to enjoy some time in the game, build some memories with people, make some friendships, experience a few challenges, get their hands in quite a few challenges, which is why the first few had some mixed elements to them to really get people exposed to the different challenges that Survivor might, throw out there. So
when you guys are planning this and you go, who comes up with the idea, hey, we're going to do 3 challenges before we do an elimination, or was it something where it's a battle back and forth? 3 is too many. We should just do 1 or 2. Like how does that conversation go?
Yeah, that was interesting. I mean, this was the first year we did anything like that, and we've in past seasons, people either went home or there was a battle back. But in this particular case, the theme and the format lent itself to this concept of keeping people in and building equity, whether it's social equity with people and conversations, or game equity in the form of finding things around camp or having the ability to go to the market. And the way that this theme worked out, we had this vision of these happy times that would then turn sour. And I think it, just in terms of how many it was, I think it just kind of fit the timeline with 3 the best. I think we toyed around with a couple different ideas, but in terms of where we wanted to be by the time we got to Saturday morning, for example, it worked out that 3 was about right.
Yeah, we the traditional style that we would do normally, we'd put ourselves at certain numbers at certain times, right? We've got a timeline we try to stick with. So we thought, how can we do all of this, but also stay on schedule? And that's kind of why you saw things go the way they did with some of the back-to-back, tribals, and just to catch us back up on time and get us to the numbers that we needed to be at moving through the day. But also it provided an experience for the players, which is like the paramount, that we want to try to have.
I think being such a seasoned operation, you guys have had a bunch of these, and I think being able to modify on the fly and see, well, we need to speed this up, or we need to do a back-to-back tribal to get us on time. If you're new to running a game, you may not be able to do that. But having a good crew obviously is paramount to being able to do that. But you mentioned, Jason, people in their audition videos being a certain way and then not being the way that you pictured them when they actually play. I feel like you're talking to me. Clearly, you're talking to me.
I hadn't even thought of that, but you're right. You're right. You were a little different, and you know what? You still played a great game. I'll let you talk.
So here's the thing. We've talked about this, and I'll bring it up. Here is the reason why. This question is the reason why I love T, but I didn't have to even be vocal because I could just look at her and agree with something or say something, and I knew she was going to do the dirty work or the leg work for me. And it was also a little bit of, I come a long way. I want to make sure that I'm not doing anything immediately to get myself put out there, be a reason to leave and then go, well, shit, I spent, this time getting here and now I'm the first one out. That's no fun. So, and then once you start playing a certain way, it's very hard to find the right time to deviate, So, I think that had a lot to do with it is, you kind of play the game that the game allows you to play, and you be the person that the game allows you to be. And some people are very true to who they are. And sometimes, in my case, being, not quite the person that I am just because I didn't feel like in the game at that point I could or needed to be.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it was you at all. You were a great player. You interviewed great. You're a great human. You're great for the game. In just the years that we've done this, we've experienced it and we've said, geez, what can we do to just bring out more out of people, and it goes beyond just saying at the beginning when everybody arrives, hey, don't forget, you're going to be on camera, speak loudly, but just make sure you can't be heard from a distance. Be vocal, tell the camera what you're thinking, tell them your moves, because, that's what the viewers want to see, or that's what, we're going to produce.
Right.
So, it went far beyond just this cast in particular. I think T said, was it anybody from our group in it? And it's been, a culmination of the last, for the, I think 10 years that I've been doing it now. that, we've picked up on this every time. We're like, geez, what can we do more? Because we don't want people to blow up their own game. We don't want people to self-implode. So let's put elements in the game that cause that stir, cause the reaction, or cause people to team build a little bit, or, break away a little bit together, create challenges that do that. The market was a great opportunity for people to get outside of the game for a minute and talk.
The market.
Yes.
The market has been a hot button issue on the recap show. So Chris, I'll throw this at you. When you're coming up with the idea for the season, and you guys are all, I'm assuming you're all sitting in a room throwing out ideas, and you might have like a tentative idea. Whose idea was it for the marketplace, and what was the original vision? Was exactly what we saw the original vision for the marketplace, or did it have higher values, lower values, more items, less items? Like, how did the marketplace evolve?
Yeah, well, so I mean, the theme came first, and I think when we were sitting around in meeting, it was, I think we can do a lot with a medieval concept, right? And then we just started to think about the types of things that may happen in medieval times, and you saw some of that come through in challenges and other things, but we centered a lot around the market because of some of what Jason was talking about, right? I think one of the things we look to,
there it is. There's the brain trust right there.
Yeah, exactly. But we were sitting around talking about how do we create forced interactions, and then how do we also, what we've seen over these past several seasons as the LRG community's grown so much is there's a lot of games out there, and there's a lot of people who have played a lot of games out there. So what can we throw at people that make them get uncomfortable a little bit and force them to navigate something that maybe they haven't seen before? Right. So, last year we did it with the fortune teller and blessings and curses. And this year we had something with the market. And it's definitely been a hot topic, and it's fun to watch from a production perspective because, there's all these theories and what, it should have been like this, or it could have been like that, or, why wasn't this there? And from our standpoint, we're sitting back and we're just kind of laughing, saying what we're seeing play out on the season and in these interviews is exactly the mayhem that we thought may play out. And it forced things that are out of the ordinary to happen. So if you look at what Thane did, for example, it was super interesting because they had this great idea to, pool all of their money and buy up a bunch of stuff, which in theory sounds great. Let's block the other tribe from that. But then you got to deal with the aftermath of that, because who holds on to it? Who gets it? I mean, now you got to navigate a game where you've taken and put all this power into a tribe that would mix up. and then you got to deal with the fact that someone's holding on to that, and it's not, it's great to say that it's a tribe thing, but it's not. Like, someone's going to take the power and absorb it. So it's super interesting to watch how it's all navigating. And then you see these wild tribal councils where, nobody knows how what to do, and they might play an idol here, they might play an idol there, and there's been 3 idols played, and none of them really needed to be played. So, I mean, it's been super interesting to watch just how it's been navigated and talked about after the fact.
T is she feels as though the biggest mistake that she had in this game so far is that idea. And she I'll be an advocate of this. It wasn't just her idea. We all went along with it, but she takes it, once again, worst idea ever. But however, you have people like Santi, who's pro market, and he thinks it's the best idea. So clearly, if you benefited so far from the market, you think it's a great idea. I mean, we just saw in this past episode, Santi and I both go to the market, and this is the second time Santi's been to the market, and I don't know what's in there, and he knows exactly what's in there and goes right to it, picks it up, and I'm like, well, shit, I wish I knew where that was. I'm sitting here having to read everything. But, I agree. I think having a wrench that's going to create chaos is I think it's needed. I think it brings out different personalities in people, and I think it alters how games are played. And I think if you're truly going to win the game, then you've got to be able to navigate that component, whatever that component is for that season. And there's always one. If you want to win, you got to be able to navigate it. So, you know, I'm as much as I have not benefited from the market as of yet. I would say that it's a pro. I like the idea of the market. So,
we could go here and smash out a quick traditional Survivor game and give everybody that traditional Survivor feel. But, you know, we've done that. We've done it for a long time. And it's to the point where we don't feel it's a true value for the cast that we have coming to sit there and play the same game over and over again. And, you know, the same kind of, flow to the game. You know what to expect, you know what's going to happen, you get comfortable, you get settled. So just spicing it up a little bit, putting our twist on it. Is it true hardcore Survivor? No, but it's all there. It's just that we're adding an extra element to it to bring more to the value of what you people are there to play, and just, you know, give you more of an opportunity to enjoy it, to maybe make a friendship, maybe, you know, stab someone in the back, just make a move, do something different. It's an opportunity to say, I played Angelica. I was able to purchase an idol, use it successfully, or I got an advantage and used it with my tribe successfully. Or, you know, the last thing you want to do is see somebody go home with it in their pocket. And I was so happy to see people saying, I don't want to go home with this in my pocket. So here we go. And as a production, we say, we want to see these things in the game. We want to make sure stuff is happening and going into the game. And for us, we're like, well, we succeeded. We saw a lot of what we wanted implemented happen. And it's because we designed it so that it would happen that way.
Yeah. And that's a good thing. I'll just build on that for a second, because we sit back and we retrospective this stuff after seasons. And are there things that we would change having seen how it played out? Yeah, of course. I mean, there's always tuning to be done. But, you know, as Jason said there, one of the things we learned, you know, I don't know, a little while back, I mean, we had some really cool game elements in one of our past seasons that never came to fruition. It just, you know, it was too hard to attain. And we sat there and we were like, damn, like, what, you know, that sucked that we didn't even get to see that play out in the way that happened. So one of the things we talk about every year in planning is, if we want to see something in the game, make sure it gets in the game. So, you know, that's why we don't price things in the market out of reach, because, you know, we didn't know everybody was going to pool their money. If you didn't pool your money and everybody held on to their money, because as we've seen and as we will see, there's other ways to spend your money too. You know, we may not have seen some of that cool stuff in the game. I love T. Watching her go from pitching the idea on the episodes to worst idea ever, I don't have any of this stuff, has been hysterical. Like, T is funny.
I love T because she is unapologetically her, and she will make a decision and then immediately go, well, that was the stupidest effing thing that I've done. Or, you know, but she gives you who she is, and I like that. You know, and I found that to be comforting, you know, working with her the way that I have in the game. You know, Santi throws out there, hey, we're pushing hard. We're pushing this really hard. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
Santi, I like that. I like that name.
Yeah, the mix up. You know, when you look at everything, like the market itself, you know, the players can only blame themselves. They went in there and chose to get what they got. Like, they could have went in there and got nothing, and it could have been a traditional game. So all these people that are complaining, like, more of a traditional game, like, you had the opportunity, you chose not to. So, you know, and I think giving people the autonomy to make things happen is key to the game. But when you're looking at themes, How do you know what the right theme is, and how do you know like what not to like? I feel like there are some themes you could have where you just do too much and it becomes more of like the theme is the game and not like the game is the game, but like how do you guys navigate having a theme but not being too overly dramatic with the theme?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think for a really long. I mean, we've been running the game for a really long time now, right? And just recently is when we started to put some themes into play, and quite honestly, for a long time, one of ours was probably more old school Survivor than new school Survivor for a really long time. I think we just recently started to play with some themes, but for us, we have a lot of core elements that are planned throughout the weekend that are straight up Survivor elements. And when we pick a theme, we just try to wrap it around the main flow of the elements that are tried and true that we've had in place for a really long time. So for us, a lot of it starts as, how can we latch on to a look and feel and concept over the weekend, and have shields instead of flags, and and kind of you layer in a little extra gamification in the form of money or blessings and curses last year or whatever the case may be. But I think the answer to your question is the theme isn't driving it's not the backbone of the game. We have that kind of locked in. So how can we put some pieces around it that give a cohesive look, feel, and experience that both we can gravitate to when we're planning certain elements and look and feel, and you have the guillotine there and stuff like that. Just it gives you some different elements to latch onto. But then the players can kind of navigate some of the theme that goes on with it as well.
I'll say one thing real quick too. Since being introduced to the LRG community, some of our seasons we've done some surveys post-season. We've done surveys with each other, with cast members, and some of the feedback that we got was make a logo, because we used to just use our regular logo for everything. So then it got into let's create a logo, but if we're going to do that, we need to create a theme. We can't just like change the colors up on it, which we've done a few times. We've changed the shape, changed the color, So then it became into let's do themes and let's change the logo, and then it became into this, well, you don't have a theme. And it was like, all right, well, I guess we can do a theme. And then you start hearing these little things from people in the feedback about, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. And we take it into consideration, but we also don't want to lose our identity as Survivor Angelica, and that, we do things a little differently. We're still kind of grassroots in a way. We're still old school, but we twist in some new school, and we put our own identity on things. Same thing with the challenges. Like we try to put our own interpretations on them. We bring in a blend of different challenges from other games and shows. So, but we wanted to still maintain what we feel is our core, but also provide some of those things that the other people out there are looking for. They want their own logo for their season, so they can, that's my season, and their own thing. So just to touch on that.
I think it's also got to be, for you guys, it's got to be boring to sit down and just go, okay, let's do a regular traditional game with no, like, it's got to be like a level of like, let's challenge ourselves. We've been doing this. We know what we're doing. Let's see what we can do.
Well, and you think to yourself, let's just say we do Medieval Mayhem. We had blessings and curses. And let's just say we're not doing an all-star season in 2025. And we just say, you know what, let's just do a regular game. We're tired. Everybody shows up applying for our game thinking this is going to be some crazy thing that they've seen the last couple seasons. Right. And it's like, you're welcome to regular Survivor. There's probably 2 total hidden immunity idols out there, maybe 1 at the merge. And everybody's like, where's the next element? Where's the next thing? What are we doing? So I think now we've kind of grown into this. We're doing these little things. People are starting to learn that we do it a little differently. And I think that almost people start to expect that Angelica's are going to bring something to the table the next time around too. Not to say that we wouldn't dumb it down and totally catch everybody off guard. It's a fun twist on things, but you're right. It probably would be a little boring.
And to to build on that for a second, I think as we continue to grow older and continue to do this for as many years as we have, is definitely a creative, outlet for me personally. And I know that's the case for others on the crew too. So, there are a lot of us also that, play a lot of other, games, table games and stuff like that. And you start to think, okay, how can we weave some other game elements into Survivor and things like that. And we got people who love to build things, and my passion is just coming up with the different gameplay elements and how they fit in operationally over the weekend. And how do you create forced interactions and things like that. So yeah, 100% there is, there's this creative outlet that it's fulfilling. And then as Cerna said, 100% now it's like, okay, well, now we've kind of painted ourselves into this spot too of now okay, what are we going to do now?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, like when I knew that I was casted to be on this season, I'd already watched the prior season, but I was expecting something. Like I couldn't picture Medieval Mayhem at the time, but like I was expecting something. And then once I found out the theme was Medieval Mayhem, like then the wheels start spinning even more, and you go, all right, well, what are the things that they could do? And never in my wildest dreams would I thought the Jester would be one of them. The marketplace would be a thing. I mean, Santi is wanting to know what happened to the plague doctor, just different things like that. Like, but it just, piggybacks off what you said, like the creativity that you can have when you have a theme, like the sky is endless. You don't want to do too much, but you definitely want to have fun with it and test what you're capable of. Is there ever a feeling like that something's not going to go the way that you scripted it up? Or do you just go, no, this is going to work like it always works, it'll be fine?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we try to do is not to have a script, but to create it in a way where however it plays out is fine. Right. So, yeah, I mean, you could kind of script things in a way where, hey, if you want it in the game, price it in a way that it's going to be in the game. So you get that kind of stuff going on. But I think one of the things we talk about all the time is, nope, that seems like we're forcing it. And if it goes wrong, then it falls back on us. And people are like that, that's the crew's fault that something weird happened and we had to navigate the game. So
I'll give a good example.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cernas.
So a few seasons ago, I think it's probably about 4 or 5 now, pre-COVID, we had an element where a clue was given to a player to find an idol at Tribal Council. And we placed the idol at Tribal Council, and we were so caught up in making sure that this person, we knew who had the clue. So we were like, oh, they've got to get this idol. But we forgot that idol's there. Anybody can get it if they see it. But we're hiding it in a way that we hope that somebody else does. And as they're coming in to sit down, I'm thinking in my head, okay, this person has the clue. They need to sit by this so they can find it. So as they're coming in and sitting, I'm like, oh, no, move over here a little bit. Why don't you sit over there? And all of a sudden, I start navigating people in a way that I'm trying to affect the game. And I totally was like, somebody like, JJ, hold on a minute. And so sometimes you can get caught up in it if you know too much. And that's where I told the crew, I can't know what's going on. I can't know who has what, because I could affect the game in a way that, and I think what happened was 2 people saw it at the same time. The person that was supposed to see it, and then somebody else was like, oh, what's that? And it was like, my stupid ass drew attention to it. And I beat myself up over that for probably 3 hours that day. Chris was my shoulder to lean on. I was like, Chris, you got to walk me off the ledge, man. Isn't it? And, no big deal, no harm, no foul. Like it really, to the players, they were like, oh, whatever. We didn't really even notice. But me, I'm like killing myself. But that was an element that we started to play with those things like, hey, let's put this in the game. Let's do that. And I was like, this isn't going to work. We can't do this. This isn't us. I screwed up already. And then once we honed in on it a little bit better and started to figure things out and figure out where we could place things and how to do it, and how these elements would work out in each challenge. It smoothed itself out, but I'll tell you, I was a nervous wreck the first time we started all these extras. Now it's like you could throw all of them in there, and I'm like, I got this. I know them in my head. I know what we got. I got a notebook I can look at. If I got Chris I can refer to. We've got it down to a science now. But can mistakes happen? Sure, and we learn the hard way.
Yeah, well, in this year, I mean, we did have to pre-mortem a lot of this stuff because with the amount of things that were in the game, there was versions of tribals that if things happened, it's like, okay, well, nobody can get voted out. So, and it was just like, all right, well, then it's rocks, and you let them, have a conversation, come to an agreement, or it's rocks, and either way, we're cool with it. So, but yeah, to answer your question, we've never gotten really backed into a corner where, something that we wanted to script, went so far left that it, threw a real bad wrench into the game. We try to set it up and then let y'all play it out.
Right. I think, Jason, next season, everybody, when they walk to tribal, is going to ask you, hey man, where should I sit? You're going to hear this and ask you a lot, I bet. But Jason, when you messaged me about coming on here and talking, so I just want to give you the chance to wherever you want to go and take this, and whatever you envision as far as talking about the production side of it and their vision. Like, I'll give you that for a few minutes, and then if you guys are good, we'll start going through some of these questions that were sent to me to ask y'all.
All right. Yeah, it's just fun to watch the feedback and watch people, banter on here and comment about things. And, we don't take anything negatively. People were like, oh, gee, don't be mad. All much love to you, things like that. And it's like, no, we don't hold a grudge. We don't care. We laugh at a lot of this. There's things that we see that we're like, wow, we didn't expect it to play out that way. And, it just comes down to some of the points we already talked about, like the elements that we put in the game. We do it for our cast and our players that are coming here. Everybody's paying money to be here. This is an experience for you. It's like going on a little mini vacation, and people go on vacations for different reasons, right? They enjoy nature. They enjoy, maybe they enjoy boating or, airplane rides or parasailing. Some people love Survivor. So for us, it's just creating an experience for people to come play our game. Play one of the games that's been around the longest and just say, hey, I got to play Survivor Angelica, because we're not going to be around forever. There's going to be an end somewhere, someday down the road, unless people take over. And Brady, what's up? So it's one of those things where we want people to know that we're doing this for you. Everything that we do in this game isn't to try to push somebody in the wrong direction. We want you to come and enjoy it, have a good time, make those friends, make those relationships, become part of the Angelica family. Like we boast all the time, like we want this to be about like family. We want people to be our alumni, and just, I would love, like, if we ever, let's just say 10 years down the road, we're done with this. We bring everybody to one of the campgrounds, we rent the place out, and we just have a great time celebrating what we've done over all these years. Something to that too. That's my dream as an end for myself. Like Angelica might keep going on, but when I retire, that's what we're doing.
And, well, if it makes you feel, this should make you feel good. T says you run a really amazing game, and she appreciates both of y'all for your hard work, and everyone for that matter. Everyone's so nice and so helpful, and just makes the whole experience what it is. If I never played another Survivor game, I could be okay knowing that I played Survivor Angelica, and I would be good with that.
And that's what I like to hear. That's what we look for. I would hate that somebody shows up and they say, and then the biggest thing we always worry about, I think we beat ourselves up more over things that, do they get a good experience out of it? When somebody leaves early, other than like having like, say, some, circumstance outside of the game where like maybe they got to go to their family or something else or work, or the logistics don't work out, we understand that, but people are coming all over the country. So to come to play a little 3-day game like ours, when there's like 5-day games, a week-long game, 10-day games, we feel honored to have people show up and play. So we're trying to give you an experience that might be a little different. We've got our edge. we don't want anybody to walk away thinking that really sucked. And if anybody ever truly felt that way, they need to reach out and let us know where we failed so that we can just kind of improve on that a little bit, And I guess just watching these videos play out, watching the people talk to each other, we send text messages like, oh, did you hear what that person said about this challenge? Or did you hear what that person said about the way the tribal was navigated? Or, those little things. So it's not that we're coming here to try and say, hey, this is what should have been, or this is what happened. It's more of this is why we do it. We do things, everything we've done has been a reaction to something, or we're trying to be proactive about something that we've noticed on our end as a trend. And we're like, we got to cut this, we got to nip it. I will say that our biggest challenge this year was the pond being shut down. That was a huge wrench in our plans. It took challenges that, we had set up that we didn't get to use, that we created. And it hurt. It stings when you tell everybody to pack for swimming. And how does the game change if swimming is implemented with this particular cast? I mean, we had multiple swimming challenges with multi-leg things going on. And we improved on our first experience of swimming, which was last season in 2023. That was our first season being able to deal with the water. We've never had to be able to deal with water before than like holding your breath in like a bucket of water. So those things are like, hey, we need to improve on our last challenges. So now we're bringing these things, we every fine detail, these are going to be awesome. We're going to love this, to go into like, well, now what do we do? And Chris was like running his brain through it. He's going through the notebook. We're all sitting down, just trying to figure out how we can make all these work. He's doing the numbers on things. And so, it hurt us big time behind the scenes. You'd never know it. I mean, we don't wear that. We don't want you to see it. And, it just, a lot happened before this game that I don't think anybody would have realized happened. The bee stings to me, which I've talked about during our some of the tribals when we're, during quiet time, but it just, I was shot by Friday afternoon. I didn't even know if I could complete through Saturday. So to see everybody's reactions is a huge success for me. I'm happy about the way things came out.
Yeah. Chris, what about you? Anything that you particularly want to address, like from a production standpoint?
Nothing I want to address specifically. I just, one of the things I thought was interesting, it's just great. And I think I said it before. It's funny to hear, just all the feedback in this type of forum and think, well, yeah, that's exactly what we want. It's like, that is the navigation. Like if we can get people that are coming in and think they have a little bit of a playbook of how they're gonna roll this thing, and then we flip it upside down, like that's when you really get to see how people adapt. And to me, that is one of the biggest parts of Survivor is adaptability and kind of, maneuvering whatever gets put in front of you. And that's exactly what this was. And, 100%, things that we would tune and maybe line up a little bit differently. But when we look at the desired outcomes of interactions and adaptability and just, forcing people to have conversations about how are we going to navigate out of this, it all came to fruition in those ways. And then to Cernus's point, it was definitely an interesting, we had to change off the script. And, to his point, I mean, we just moved to Letchworth Valley Campground 2 years ago. So this was the second year running it there. And after the first year with the water challenge, it was like, we came back and did our retrospective, post event. It was like more water challenges, and we lived into that, or wanted to anyways. And, we had to completely flip the script on all of those. And, to Ayla's point, who knows how it turns out, because you throw a couple different wins in there and the game looks very different, and that's, that's the game, right?
Well, so we'll never know, but it definitely would have had an impact on the game.
Yeah.
Well, I'll revert back. All right, to this. We can always find out. Always find out.
I say it all the time. We can run it back. I'm not opposed to it. If ever there was a cast and a theme to do it with, this is the one. I know everybody's like, strip it down and just play the game regular. No, that's not us. We can't do that. That's boring. So, you're going to get the same kind of stuff in the game, maybe not as much, but we're going to involve those water challenges this time around. I would run it back, keep the tribes the same, and let you guys rip and just let you have at it and let the game play out. I'd love it. Why not? Let's do it.
That'd be epic. But if you guys are good, we'll jump into some of these questions that
let's do it.
Put out there. I'll throw the question out there. You guys can decide who wants to address it. The first question, Santi wants to know, what's your favorite moment from a production point so far that we've seen in the episodes?
So far in the episodes. Oh boy. There's a lot of good stuff.
I'll jump in while you think, Cernus, because I've already alluded to mine a little bit. I think T is hilarious, and just watching from her pitching the initial, like, yo, let's just buy everything up, to, yo, this is the worst idea ever, and now I got to live with this. That's been hilarious for me, and I think what's great about Brian and his episodes is how he cuts from conversation to conversation. Makes me laugh, because it's like someone saying, yeah, Cernus and I are so tight, and then it cuts to Cernus and he's like, I need to get that Zerbal dude out of here. So it's, the way that he just cuts some of that in just, makes me laugh from a production perspective. But honestly, for both Jason and I, we don't see any of this stuff behind the scenes. So literally, when we watch these episodes and go through the footage, that's our first time seeing this stuff. Like, we don't work the cameras and we don't ask them what's going on, because we don't want to have that knowledge. And so watching this stuff is like, oh, wow, that's interesting. I had no idea that Hannah flipped and created the dynamic that, that we're seeing now, because the numbers could have been completely different had that not happened. I had no idea that happened. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's wild. Jason, I'm assuming T is your favorite thing about the episode so far. I mean, how could she not be? She's, up 1 minute, down 1 minute, like feeling good 1 minute, feeling like the game is out of control 1 minute. People like her, people don't like her, people want to be mixed in with her, people want her out of the game. It's crazy. It's everything you could ask for from a player at this point.
It is. And I've got a couple things really quick, so like before the season start, we go through casting and we see videos and we talk to people, and you build some of these relationships, and there's the communications that happen, and you hear different stories, or people that couldn't play a season before and they come to this season, and it's like been this story just to get here. So naturally become a fan of those people, because you've been wanting to see them, come play your game. So I always have an open space in my heart for people that weren't able to play a season before, or they finally got here. I love that story. I love a dynamic player that just is overall just like, they're really good at challenges. They're really good at speaking. Those things really excite me to see that when you get this, just like this little, trifecta of things happening. But in our game specifically, there's two things I really loved so far. One is the dominance of the puzzle solving skills of Paige. I mean, it's fun. I have never seen anything like it in my life. She is a wizard at puzzles, and damn, watch out in any game she's in, because you better plan a good puzzle, because she'll find a way to solve it. To anybody that's out there watching, like, start thinking about it, because she's probably studied it. She's probably practicing it at home. And if she doesn't practice at home, she'll figure it out by looking at it and just come there and solve it. So really hats off to her. And then T, I can't. Like, T is next level personality. I love her to death. It is one of the best personalities and humans in general, because she's so honest. She's so forward. She's so willing to do anything. And I love that she's just true to herself. She's very authentic, and it's raw. And I love raw. I love authentic. It brings just this certain dynamic to the game, and you can't get around it. There's no fucking around. You don't get around that. And another person that, it doesn't take any bullshit is Sam. She's another one, man. That New Jersey attitude, she's spicy, and she wasn't in the game long enough. I know she was saying she would have found an idol and all that stuff, and damn if she did, because the game might have been different. Right. And she's got that personality, like you can't bullshit around it. She's gonna call you. She's gonna call you out, and I love stuff like that. And I love the funny people, the ones with the laughs and the ones that just, they're smiling and having a great time. It's just, oh man, I could eat everybody up in this game. Yeah. I love it.
I got two other quick ones. So
we're killing this time.
Tasha,
no, we're good.
Tasha and the court jester and the wooden horse. Yes. She gave that so much justice. Like I couldn't have thought of a better version of that when we were thinking up that idea. And I mean, she's riding into everything on this thing, doing circles around Cernus. That was hysterical. And then, Santi too, like he's given off some low key villain vibes that are super intriguing that I didn't really pick up on on the weekend. So that stuff's been pretty cool to watch.
Yeah. Really quick. You got to remember, like Chris mentioned, I only see what happens at the challenge and what's going on at tribal. So everything at camp, everything at the market, all these little conversations, even the side conversations, walking down to tribal, walking to a challenge. I don't see this. And the camera crew doesn't report to me. None of the other helpers are telling me what's going on. The only stuff that I kind of learn is like at Ponderosa at night, if I come over and have a quick beer by the fire, I kind of have some conversation. I try not to talk too much game with people because I just want them to see me as Jason, not the host of the game. Like, hey, let's just sit by a campfire as friends and have a conversation. So I don't get too much. And part of that is because I don't want too much, because it can change how I think about the game and what I'm going to say. So I love seeing this footage. It blows me away.
But I think the one benefit to that too is also like you're going to react in a raw way, like in the moment, because at a tribal you have no context for why. I mean, you see the challenge and like it might be as cut and dry, that person sucked at the challenge, they go home, but a lot of times it's not. So like you have zero context going into why the vote is the vote. So like I think that's fascinating, where you're having to try to look back and go, all right, let me fill in these pieces now that I can see the episode and see how this thing played out.
One more moment that I really enjoyed, and it was just because of the edit, was the baton tossing and just the never ending throws and like we lost count and it's just like it's still going. Stuff like that just kills me. I love it. That's a great edit.
So Chad wanted to know, he said, why the super idol? What was out of all the things to do, you chose the super idol. Why was that the choice?
It goes back to like what we were saying before. It's one of those things that we thought about. Let's put something fun in the game. Let's give somebody an opportunity to possibly, stay here with a crazy opportunity that's going to mix things up. And it's an element that we said, if we want it in the game, let's control it and let's put it in there and let's get it in the game. It's just one of those things we experimented with, like that picture that I showed before. We sat in an office and used an entire wall and had Post-it notes and drawings and all these things. And it was like, everybody write down 5 ideas. Everybody write down 5 themes. Everybody write down 5 challenge ideas, 5 advantages, 5 idol types. And it was like, all right, now think of names, medieval names. So we did all these things and just put them up on a board. And it's like, all right, now go and use these stickers as dots. And we go and we put them on there. And it's like, all right, whatever one gets the most dots, we're going to put that in. And then we talk about it and see, all right, can this come to fruition? So a lot of it came down to things like that. Like, let's just try different things and throw it out there and see how it works. And if it doesn't work, we don't do it again, or we tweak it a little bit, tweak the rules. And Chris,
is it working the way you guys thought it would work, the super idol?
Probably not. I mean, I think, the foundation of that idea came from a season a couple years ago, where we actually had, we called it the Phoenix Idol in that season. And there was a different way to get to that idol. But in that season, it played out highly effectively, where, somebody ended up getting voted out and then they weren't out because of the Phoenix Idol, and we thought that this may allow something like that to happen. And I'm not going to spoil any future episodes or anything, but I think again it maybe didn't have the fireworks that maybe we would have hoped for, but I don't know that it was as helpful as it may seem like right now either. So we'll have to see how it all plays out, right? But I think that's one of those advantages that can be a blessing and a curse. Let's just say
Right.
that.
Yep. That Phoenix Idol just totally came to fruition. That was such a great way it played out.
Yeah. And you may, that's one of those ones where you may want to play it just to shed it. But there's different approaches, right? And I think we haven't seen that one play out just yet.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Is there anything that's fallen short so far that you thought would have a bigger impact that didn't?
For me, it is the wheel in the market. That was an opportunity for more collaboration, interaction, and the ability to reap the rewards of what that would entail. But it was decided that one tribe was just going to say that they weren't going to do that. So so I think it was, in the end, it really doesn't matter because people still were able to exploit their purchasing power at the market anyways. But I think that was we had hoped that would be a conversation starter in there, and it ended up being nope, we're not even doing that with you guys. Sorry. And that was it's a great strategy if you think about it in context. But I think in the spirit of more interactions, we thought that may have been a little different.
Mine was the sitting in on a tribal. I think we could have tweaked that a little differently because the tribe knew they were there, so they weren't going to give up much information. And anything they did, you really can't take it for what it is because they could be lying to you about it all. So I felt like we could have messed with that a little more and maybe like not let them know that somebody was spying on or sitting in on, more of like a spy on your tribal type deal, where they get to come and listen, but they don't know they're there, so they actually
hidden behind a tree. Yeah.
There would have been more value to it that way. So for me, that was one that I just was, I don't know,
Yeah.
And that's a good one.
It made the tribal kind of ineffective because they didn't want to say much anyways.
Right. Ayla wanted to know, before the game started, did you guys have did production have any picks, like winner picks, just based on cast interviews and applications that were sent in?
Of course we had picks. We always have picks.
I'd be remiss to say, who are they? That's
my pick did not win.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll put it that way too. I'll leave it at that.
We'll see how things play out. Once everything wraps and the smoke clears on this season, we'll ask you again, and we'll see who may have been right, who was not even close, and go from there. But
my wife Elisa, who is on the crew and runs Ponderosa, has been really strong with picks over the last few seasons, either getting to the winner or getting into final three, just by doing this vibe thing where she's hovering over the names and pictures of the people and just saying, I feel this. And that's been the best version of the picks that we've really seen, because our rationale never works out.
Oh, whatever luck-based picking strategy you have is probably as good as any. So Ayla wanted to know your favorite duo or alliance so far.
Duo or alliance so far? I'm going to go kind of outside of that for a minute, only because it is Ayla that's saying it. the relationship that was formed between Ayla and Hannah is kind of like production dreams, to see somebody create such a friendship. I think they just hung out together not too long ago, maybe a couple weeks ago. Yeah. It doesn't have to be inside the game. For me, it's something that's been created because of what we did, right? They otherwise would have probably never made that connection if it weren't for our game. So for me, I hold my hat on that. Like, I love seeing people create friendships and relationships out of these games, not just ours, but any game. That's kind of what the community is about. It's not, or at least it is for me. That's my interpretation of it, is get people together that all share the same passion for a game. So, does their duo sort of come to fruition in the game? Absolutely. But I think that it's one that I enjoyed watching happen through the game and outside of the game.
Yeah, I would have to piggyback on that. I don't know that I've seen. I mean, there's been so much moving around so far right now that I don't know that I've gravitated to any particular duo, but I do love, the story of Ayla and Hannah becoming so close. I love that Jess drove Paige back up to the border afterwards and still talk. I love that, Scott and Tasha and Jess get together because they live kind of close and didn't even know it. So those are the things that are really cool for us to see happening after the fact.
I think one of the things that I was oblivious to prior to going into this is that you create a connection of people that have the same interest you do at the same level. Like, when I'm trying to explain like my love for these types of games to friends or family, they just like, it misses them. Like, but with this group of friends, everybody understands. And like, when you play a game, we're someone's biggest supporter and cheerleader and wanting to watch and wanting to support and want to know who's doing what, who's applying for what. And it has nothing to do with, we're wanting to be a part of that. We just want to see them play it or do well, Santi is one that comes to mind. I had someone reach out to me that had a game in Austin looking for players, and I immediately went to Santi because I know he lives in the area. He ended up playing the game and did very well, and enjoyed it. So like, things like that, I think you got to hang your hat on things like that, because I think it's sometimes missed in the fact that it's a competition and you want to win, but there's more to it on the outside. By playing in the game and making these friends is really paramount, in my opinion, to any prize that you could win for winning the game.
Yeah, I mean, I always comment on it, and it's because I played this game in a rough spot in life, and I met these people, and here I am now, still associated with the whole group. And so for me, it's this whole sentimental value for me. Like, this game's got a huge piece of my heart to it. And these people have seen me go through life and hell and high water and everything. And we've seen each other go through. We've all had our battles, and it's a whole different level. So I appreciate everything that this game does for people. It sounds crazy because it's such a cutthroat game, but
yeah.
Ayla appreciates, the shout out and introducing her to Hannah. She also wanted to know what's your favorite rivalry so far?
Ooh. I can't. So far,
I know a lot of it is like, it's really hard to like talk about because you don't want to give anything away.
I can't say now, but maybe in a few episodes you'll start to see, and I think people will understand if it's edited that way. But if not, we can talk after a few episodes, and I can tell you that one.
Santi commented the biggest rivalry in the entire game. Tea in the market.
Yes.
All day.
Tea in the market. I don't know if it's a rivalry, but Scott in the bathroom, I mean, that may be the opposite of a rivalry.
That's an alliance.
Yeah. Yeah.
They literally, I think, had a bathroom alliance. I mean, they had a crew that would go to the bathroom 14 times. I mean, I don't know how they managed in between all the other stuff they were doing. But
I commented on this on one of the chats before that at Evergreen Trails where we used to do this, it was 2 porta potties, and one was for number 1 and one was for number 2. And it was strictly known across it. Elisa had labels on them and stick, things on the door. But there was no opportunity to do what's happening, with these bathroom trips. And let it be known we've paid attention. So these bathroom trips might be a thing of the past.
I've said it in the first couple episodes that if it wasn't for T, though, prior to us swapping, I would have not known about a lot of stuff that was in the works because she was able to go into the women's bathroom and fill me in on the ins and outs of what's being discussed, and I'll say this, as of now, the men's bathroom wasn't used for a whole lot of chatter and discussion. I mean, there was some, but not as much as what I heard coming from the ladies' bathroom. Let's put it that way. Anything funny or that you guys found like noteworthy that happened on your end that players didn't know about that maybe we would be surprised by to know now?
I can't think of anything. I feel like we are running a million miles a minute when we're there. I think that, the biggest thing that we already talked about was having to recreate a collection of challenges when the water stuff went away. Yeah, go ahead, Curtis.
No, you're fine. If you finish up what you're saying.
No, go ahead.
Oh, so one of the things that I thought was hilarious, but I knew about this because it was shared with me during the game, was the mock tribal.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
This is something that I don't think anybody else has ever done, and this is just a testament to the people we casted. Like, you're bringing in these people that are just so much fun, and to hear the different characters being played out, and I kind of want to see some of the raw footage too. I haven't seen the actual whole thing. Obviously it was edited a little bit, but just the breakdown of it was absolutely hilarious. I love that everybody took a character and they really honed in on who they were supposed to be. That was fun. It's a whole different level of fun and funny for me. And to find out that this has happened and people are telling me about it, like, oh yeah, we had a mock and somebody was you and somebody, like, that stuff to me is just, how do you have time to do that within a game? With all the other things going on, it's just like, thank you. I love that. I eat that up. So that was really cool. I appreciate that. And that was a funny moment for me. I laughed. I had tears. I was laughing at it so hard. And it might not have been that way to everybody, but to me, just understanding, like, these people are here stressing their brains out. They traveled across the country to be here. And it's like, let's take 5 minutes and just freaking imitate everybody here. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that was funny, but only after the fact, was, coming out of that escape room challenge, Paige is running and she goes down hard on the hill on the way down, pops up. I almost had a heart attack. I'm like, are we going to have an injury right out of the gate? She pops right back up, starts running, gets about another 15 yards down, and then goes down again just as hard. And I was like, oh my God. Like, there's rocks and there's everything else. And she went down so hard. And, as soon as she popped up and she was okay, it became funny. But man, that was wild. Hey, Paige.
Oh, hi.
If you say her name, she appears. There she
That's
is.
amazing.
So, Paige, I brought you on. We were talking about you, obviously, but I also I don't know if you heard, because I know you had a lot going on today, but earlier, I asked Jason about, being impressed and like things that he didn't foresee happening and players. And he was like, Paige is the best puzzle solver that he's ever seen.
Hands down.
Thank you so much. That actually means like a ton.
Well, I might have blown up your spot in future games, and I might have even told other producers to challenge themselves to find a puzzle that you can't solve. So be ready.
Hey, I'm ready for it. I'm ready to roll. Thank you. That really does mean a lot. It's very sweet.
So,
wait. Oh, I'm gone. Am I gone?
Sorry. I was quick on the trigger there. No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, yay. I'll just hang.
But yeah, so the last question, and This comes from Santi. He just wants to know, what can we expect from this week's episode? Have you seen it yet? And if you have, what are we in store for? Can you give us a little tease, a little something?
You know, I wish I could give you a better answer than this, but we have not seen the episode. We usually don't. When we watch it, is the first time, the same time as when y'all are watching it. So it's a great question. I'm very curious myself.
We'll just have to tune in to find out. Tune in to find out. That's all the questions I got. Anything you guys want to throw out there, Jason, Chris, before y'all roll out?
You know, the only thing I'm saying is, you know, everything we do it with purpose. We do it for the cast. We do it for people that love this game. Are all of our ideas great? No. Are we perfect? No. We try things. If they don't work and they don't stick, we bring it back to the drawing board. We try it again. And we do it because we love the game of Survivor and we love putting on a show for everybody. When it doesn't become fun, when it becomes serious is when we're like, that's it, I'm done. And, you know, we've had those moments where we get stressed out, but we have a team that works through this and we want to put on the best we can for you guys. And, you know, I hope that we have, you know, many more years in the tank until we just can't do this. Our backs can't handle it.
Oh, man.
But I appreciate everybody for being part of it and sticking with us. And I didn't mean to try to say like we need to come on here and like correct anything or try to make a statement about anything. It was just more of we would love you to get like how we think and like what we go through. And like it's months, and every game will say it. It's months and months and months of planning. And my favorite moment of production planning and the planning phase was going to Chris's office in downtown Rochester and using, you know, an entire office that was like, I don't remember how many floors up, Chris can probably tell us, but a beautiful view of the entire city skyline. We got to watch the sunset between this, what's the tower called with the thing?
That's the Times building.
The Times building. So it's got this spire on the top of it and the sunset right between it. So you could see it. And we got these really cool photos, but what an inspiring moment for us. I mean, we left that meeting and it was like, we had a plan, we had a theme, and we were going to nail this season. And it's just one of those, like, we got it. We flipped the switch and we're excited for it. And so, you know, you steamroll into, you know, 2025 and I can't wait. Like, I am so excited for this next season. We're in our casting phase. I am so excited for, you know, what we have in store. It's very early still, but I think that we already know where the ball is going to roll and it's going to be a great, great season. So I'm just, you know, it's because of seasons like yours that help us propel to the next one. So thank you all.
So no, thank you. Obviously, I'm going to speak for everyone because everyone believes this. We're very appreciative of everything you guys do. Like, it was awesome. I will say this because I know a lot of people are thinking it. I don't want to think too much ahead about the next season, but just answer this. Has the cast been determined yet? So we're
working on it.
Okay.
We're getting there.
Getting there.
All right. Now I'm curious. All right. Now I got to know. How do you decide who, like, what's the process for deciding who gets on? Is it you rank them and like there's like an average ranking and then that's who you choose, or do you literally go through everyone and talk about, or does everyone submit a list, or is there no list and you already know exactly who you want, you just hope that they apply?
It's a little bit of everything. So, you know, one of the things that we ask for is that written entry. We read through that. And then we ask for a video entry because we want to see what you're like on camera. We want to see what you have to say, how you articulate, what your personality might be like, how serious are you taking it, how fun are you taking it. And so not everybody has to be funny, you know, but you have to grab our attention. You've got to give us something to latch onto, right? It's just like the real show. And when these, you know, casting agents are watching, you've got to grab their attention in 10 seconds or they're gone. They're already skipping through the video. They're not watching it. 10 seconds. That's all you got. So if you're like, hey, everybody, so My name's Jason. They're like, they're gone. See you later. That pause and that whole little streamline thing right there, done. They don't want to watch it. So we want videos, and we watch them. We pair that with what they've written. We pair that with maybe the experiences that we've seen on other live reality games, maybe our own game, and we say, okay, this is maybe a yellow, this is a green, this is a blue, this is definitely a not. This is somebody that's applying for a game that's never played before. Why are they applying for All Stars? So yeah, you go on to the next season, and you might be for an all newbies type thing. That's kind of the extent that we're at right now. And then it comes down into the nitty gritty, like how many games have they played? What games have they played? Do we have too many from one style of game? Do we have too many from another style? And you start to divide them up into other categories, and then you make your selections. It's like, all right, well, maybe these 3 played our game, and these 10 over here only played Survivor Pennsylvania. I'm just throwing them out there. This is not, well, we can't take all 10 from that one if they've only played that game. It's like that doesn't make you all. So I've got about, I'd say 12 players right now that I know personally that I could call right now and say I won in the game. And I think probably most of our crew is on the same page between, guys and girls. And then there's this open window of we've really got to fine tune it from there. And it's going to be probably the hardest decision we've ever had to make, because there's some great people that we're going to have to say no to that it's going to hurt to say no. It really is, but it's what we got to do.
Yeah. That part's been tough. And, we got a lot of really solid applications this year, and the video is hugely important. I think that's that definitely, it's hard pressed for us to look any further if we don't get a video from somebody. I would say that we probably are 80% of the way there in terms of who we think we want. And then there's this whole collection of people that we got to figure out how to narrow that down into the other 20%. And that's kind of the stage that we're at right now.
When do you think you'll have it narrowed down by? Is there a timeline? Obviously you got to select some point, because you got a game to prepare for.
Yeah. We're gonna try to lock in as much as we can. Actually, we have a meeting on Sunday where we're gonna try to get as far as we can, and then and then there's probably a few conversations to be had just to make sure that everybody who, we want can make the dates and everything else. I would say in the next week or two, we're looking to have the cast locked down.
I would think within by 2 weeks, we'll have some announcements made, and reaching out to people and making our decisions and starting to accept payments and, contact the campground and do all that. So it'll happen pretty quick, because then we've got to get planning.
There you go, everybody. You can stop asking. Now 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Now you know.
Putting an alert.
Well, Jason, Chris, I appreciate y'all joining us. I'm gonna let y'all bounce. We're gonna bring Chad up. This is his episode. We gotta get him, and then Joel's gonna join us too, because he's heard a lot about this snoring that he does. He has no clue that he does it. Like, we've got to talk about that and talk about, a lot of different things, but we're going to recap episode 6, and then, we're going to be ready for the next one. So I appreciate y'all. If there's anything y'all need from me or us, let me know, and we'll bring you back on as we get closer to the end to talk some more shit.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you for having us, DB. It's awesome that you guys are doing this, and we just appreciate the cast. We love you guys.
I gotta say, DB, thanks for doing this. We had Nathan and Parker doing it before, and they just got too busy, and so it's nice to have you bring some people on and talk and take this on. It's a huge thing that we look forward to. I look forward to it every week, and watching their faces and seeing everybody talk about the game and see their smiles or their anger or their distaste for things. Well, I love it. I eat it up. So keep it going.
Yeah, you got it, man. I appreciate you allowing me to talk about it. This is fun.
All right. Have fun, guys.
Later, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Paige.
Look at
us. All right. Let's bring them up. Bring them up.
Bring them up. Bring them up.
Man, it's been a minute. Chad, what up? I got to ask, man, how's the move? You're back in Wisconsin, dude. Like, who would have thought?
Yeah, I mean, they say moving is one of the most stressful things in a person's life, and I've done it twice now within the last 3 years or so. So I think this is the last time for a while, but it's nice to be closer to friends and family, and my dogs and things like that. I feel like I'm drawing more reward and more strength, more fulfillment from it. So,
Oh, well, hey, got the house, you got the dog, you got family. I mean, what more could you want, man? I mean, this and this episode's yours, man. This is all about you tonight. So
All
we're
about Chad.
It's the Chad show tonight.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Joel, what's up, brother? How are you, man?
What's going on? Not much. Just pharmacy school things, studying, trying to get this degree, but enjoying Survivor Angelica in between it and reliving everything. So I'm excited to come on and talk about kind of like perspective of stuff going into the episode and past relationships and all that fun stuff.
Well, let's get into it. So we open new Lorne, making fun of a lot of the other people in their tribal reenactment. I would say like whoever Tara did me, and it's very spot on. Just
So funny.
Not just looking at her, not saying anything, but just doing what I do. I just sat back and I just couldn't help but laugh. I was just like, that's perfect. That is exactly me right now. But obviously you guys are there. Whose idea was it to do this? Paige, I feel like you would have been a ringleader just because of your background.
Well, you might think that. This was Ayla. Ayla said,
"Look at Ayla,
yeah." She was like, one of my favorite moments of watching Survivor of all time is in Survivor All Stars when they, when like all the All Stars do the tribal of the other All Star tribe, and Amber's got the boobs, and Rob is Ethan, I think, and so we all, and I think this is something that you get off the top of this episode. Something with this particular swap tribe, we had 2 full rounds of just hanging. So this is happening in the we've just been hanging.
Must be nice. Must have been nice.
It's been pretty great. Yeah,
the last two tribals are fucking hell.
Yeah, you're like fighting for your life. Meanwhile, at the other tribe, we've had a few strategic talks, but there isn't that same kind of that immediacy that needs to happen. So we are getting this chance to just hang out and get to know each other as people slightly outside the game. So Ayla brings this up, and immediately everyone is already in that place of like, oh, yes, and let's do it. So coming from my background, obviously I'm going to jump into this. I think the first person really, though, who grabbed was Chad. I think Chad was immediately like, oh, I'm going to be Jason. And he runs off and he goes, finds that log to put his feet on, because that was like such a classic Jason thing. And I asked him, can you do the voice? And he starts doing the voice. And then really quickly, people start grabbing, like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this person. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I don't know who I want to do. The people who I kind of immediately wanted to think of were already grabbed. So I was like, who can I do? Who's kind of like an off the wall? And I was like, oh, maybe I'll go be cameras. And I say that pretty quickly in the episode, like, oh, I'm going to go be a production person. That's really funny. I'll do someone there. And then as I was walking over there, I remembered the first time that Thane walked into Tribal, and the first time he walked in was after Lorne had already been for the first time. And what doesn't get caught on camera, the footlog.
Nailed it.
The first time my tribe walked into Tribal was after that first vote out, and Travis, who had already been a person who was talked about on our other tribe, was sitting, and you don't see him. He's like kind of in the dark, and you can see that he has that. He's just thinking through everything. And he, I just remember seeing his eyes, just so locked in, and he was going to watch our tribal, he was front row. And it was an image that stuck with me so much that I was like, I have to do that. And I chatted to Travis at the Marooning. So I was like, oh, perfect way to bring him back in. And then I just had a lot of fun just goofing around in the back. I mean, that was kind of how it all spun out. Chad, Joel, thoughts on that?
Y'all were just having fun, right, Chad? There was no care in the world. There was no plan to vote anybody out. I mean,
I mean, like it was fun, and I picked up on the Jason in the log with the feet, like even before we played, like and watching the past episodes, it was just one of those things that drew my attention. So yeah, when we did that, I'm like, and I knew because that was my original camp, so I knew where there was a log to grab, and it worked out all right, and it was fun. We've been talking about that since the game, wondering how it was going to come across on an episode, and look, the episode wasn't my favorite episode because ultimately at the end I'm gone, but I'm glad that was at the beginning of my episode, So
I mean, Santi hit it. I mean, it's like we talked about earlier. We just get each other. Like we are all in this little connected group, and we're all the same type of people. But I'll tell you this: you guys had no idea what was going on my side of things.
None.
And it was chaos. It was crazy. You guys have you've seen the episodes now, so like you have a pretty good idea of what happened, but even that doesn't tell the full chaotic story that was going on. And T talks about it in this episode, like we could have saved Steven, and she could have, in her head, she thought that she could have figured out a way to keep Steven around, which I think she could have. The problem was we had just been through so much chaos. It would have required another level of chaos.
Right.
And then it was like, it would have had to been this live tribal situation, and it just would have been crazy. And I think at that point, the easiest move and the most solid move was just, getting Steven out. And in hindsight, it may not have been a good idea, or it may have been a good idea. We just didn't know at the time. But for you, Chad, what is the feeling when we get back to the competition, and we're going for immunity, and you see, oh shit, Scott's gone. Like, what happened? What are you guys thinking after that tribal, and you guys see that Scott's no longer there?
It was actually like I'm going to say kind of like a double blind side in that I remember after that tribal, we seen your tribe walking, and it was from a distance and it was through the woods, but we were watching and we all thought you had been gone, right? Which would make sense given the numbers. And we even said that. So when we went into that next immunity challenge, we were under the impression that you were gone and the numbers were there. So the old Lauren, I think we're feeling pretty good about the situation. And then we see, no, it was Scott. And in my mind, and I think Joel's and Ayla's at the time, is like, how is this possible? They had the numbers. We had a plan, so to speak. We had talked about this scenario. And so I kind of figured at that point, like we need to win out, to get to a merge kind of situation. But yeah, it definitely rocked my game for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Joel, when you get the mix up, when we mix up the tribes, what's your thinking now that you have some different people? Are you feeling like you're in a better position, or is it now, oh shit, like we're basically starting over, I got to get to know more people, and now most of my people are on the other side, and now we're at the deficit. What am I going to do? Let me go talk to Chad. Let me figure this out. Like, what's going through your head when that happens?
So looking at it, like going into the swap with like lower numbers, I'm like afraid because all game we've been sharing information about who's getting what at the market. And so by this point, based on Travis's information, we know that Tara has like this idol that can save two people. At least that's what he told us. So that's the story we're going with. So we're like, okay, she could save two people. Santi has an idol. So like, I'm like, even if we try to pull something off, they've got ammo. We've got nothing, So that's why it was so crucial for me to go to the market that first time. But at this point, so I'm sure everybody talked about it already, but like I knew Santi from a different game that we played in May. And going into the games, I never like automatically locked down with like, just because we played in another game, it's like, yeah, I'm with you. You know what I mean? Like I was willing to stay with Lauren until the very end. But when we came back from that other challenge and I saw that Scott was gone, I was so pissed. I was like, you guys had the numbers, you had an idol, 4-3. what happened? Like Hannah had to block a vote. I'm like, there was a million different scenarios where you guys could have got out of there unscathed. And now, no matter what we do, we're going to go into the merge with less numbers, and we're still going to be like, you know. So at that point, I start forming a little bit of a relationship with Santi and a little bit of a relationship with Tara, just in case. This is before the Scott goes home, just in case something happens. But then I'm pitching to Chad and Ayla, like, okay, maybe we can flip Paige. I thought that Paige was kind of at the bottom. I don't know if that was your situation at that point, but I could kind of feel like you were like a little bit fluid. So I was trying to like, okay, maybe we can reel Paige in and like do something, but that didn't happen. So
well, Paige, so then you see the next tribal, you know, we go to, and now Steven comes back and he's gone. So what's everybody's reaction then when now another original Lauren is gone and it's Steven?
Yeah. Well, to actually back up a little bit on this, Joel was pretty spot on this. Coming into this particular swap, I was like, with that other group going, original Thane numbers are probably going to go down. So I do have to be ready to be a fluid player if that's where we're going. And Joel, that was a completely right read. Okay. When we came back, and I was trying to have these conversations with everyone, and at that point, I didn't have anything to protect myself. So I was very aware that like, if anything's going south, I don't feel 100. So I was keeping options open. I was ready to listen. And then we come back, Scott's gone. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how that happened, but great.
Ayla wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And that makes full sense. And then after Scott goes, I go to the market with Tiana. And I remember walking in and being like, T, what happened? And you don't quite get this with the camera, but T was, you see T like kind of really quickly break it all down. What the camera doesn't get I got front row seats too was T was like, this is everything that happened in the tribal. And now I don't really know what's happening. So I'm going to get, and I remember leaving the market being like, oh, T's freaked out. And so I was like, okay, so leaving that market, and that's where I pick up the safety without power. I'm like, okay, whatever happened, that's great. I still don't know where these Thane numbers are going. And I had a connection with Steven. Yeah, yes. Your head was spinning. And I was like, okay, so if T's
it was still too fresh. It was just the wound was still open. And
a tribal like that, absolutely. And seeing it play out, oh my gosh, it would have been the exact same way. So I'm still like, okay, so not 100% sure where this is going to shake down. Steven was the person who I'd played Steven's org. We'd played an org together before. I was really hoping at some point we were going to end up on the same tribe. And then and I was like, oh, maybe like if I'm talking with like these people on my new swap tribe, and if Steven makes it to the end and like it feels like Steven and T, maybe they'll link up. Who's to say? And then Steven goes. And I'm like, all right, Thane's got the numbers. I think I see the path that makes the most sense for me.
Like Thane strong.
Because at that point it turns into like, okay, so if this is turning into a merge where we're going to have majority numbers, what's the move here? The move is be open to conversations, but also be very aware that whatever the heck is happening over there is going to be affecting us very soon. Then we came to this unity.
Yeah. As nice as it sounded, Paige, before we did any swapping, like you remember, like the talk was, let's get 6 or 7 of us and then we'll just battle it out. And like, as
sure,
in theory, that sounds great. It sounds in just theory, lovely.
That sounds awesome. Personally, I've never trusted that. I've never been whenever we've been in past games, when I've been in that situation, I'm not the person who, when we get to 6 or 7, is in the safest position. So the moment I heard that in like the first conversation as a group, I was like, ew. And already it was like, oh, Paige is good at puzzles. I was like, stop talking about it. that's actually not going to be great for me in a few minutes. So like,
you gotta start throwing these challenges, Paige.
I can't.
It is really hard.
We know you can't. We know.
Okay? Oh my gosh. Joelle had like the front row seat to me in that first swap challenge we had with the tipsy table where the puzzle's happening on the other side. And I was at the tipsy table losing my mind, just like tearing my hair out, like turning to like people at the, like, I think I turned to you, Joelle, and I was like, maybe they can call out what the puzzle pieces look like. Maybe I can help from here. Like I was just, I'm not someone who can throw. If I fail a challenge, you will know it's because I failed the challenge.
I want to get into that. Chad, you and Natasha before this swap had talked about, if it came down to it, throwing a challenge. Okay. And what we find out is Natasha, indeed, the chicken wire, she tried her best and succeeded in failing at that challenge. Looking back at it, you're now missing Scott and Steven, and the numbers aren't in your favor. When you go into this next immunity, is there any like thought in your head now, because you've talked about it happening, that maybe the original Thane members would throw this challenge just to keep the numbers and move forward without, an original Lauren?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly was worried about it, and I think that's why I tried to put myself in the end stage of each of those challenges to make sure it couldn't be thrown in the end, right? So I was on the chicken wire, and then in the one that I ultimately went home on, I was on the puzzle, even though it never got to me to that part. But I tried to put myself in a position where, all right, at least it won't be thrown at the end. And I did talk to Tasha, because we were working very close together the entire game. Within the first hour of the game or something, she found one of the coins and gave it to me, one of the shillings, in private. And that was a big move she didn't have to do. And it just built this bond. So I was working with her pretty closely. We all knew she had a hidden immunity idol that she had found that morning. And so when we were both on the chicken wire, we were pretty far away from everybody, and we had the opportunity to talk a bit. And I said, because I was worried the same thing, like Thane could just throw this and then it will be one of us. You guys have the numbers, throw this. You have an immunity idol. I think there were a couple other advantages for us on that side of things. Like you guys are more prepared to survive this. Throw these challenges, and then we will go into a merge, likely 7-4 or something like that. And so when we won that first one and they went to tribal, that's why we thought it was going to be one of you for sure. And the plan, might work. And when it didn't, then for me, that was like, okay, this game is likely headed to the end for me unless we win out. And we did win the next one, and unfortunately didn't win the other one. And, it's one of those things, like, you guys know, I'm in the poker world, a poker player, you feel short stacked, right? You're not out of the game. Anything can happen, but the odds are really stacked against you. And all you can hope is to get lucky. And, if it maybe, who knows? And and no blame when I say this, but if Katie hits that baton and knocks over the stick in the first few throws, we had such a lead, and who knows, the game could have been very different. But luck plays such a role in these sort of games in a situation like that. And as we say in poker, that's the way the cards fell.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that immunity. Obviously, starts with a puzzle, and who better to do the puzzle than Paige? Just flies through that. Once you make it through that, then it was let me see, it was sandbags in a bucket. You guys crushed that. So you guys get Katie over to the stick, throwing the stick and knocking over the block. And I didn't think about her ever throwing a challenge in the moment, but then after I watched the episode and found out Natasha, my wheels started spinning. I was like, do you think she like struggled at that? And like, I did that part of the challenge for my team, and it's difficult, but I don't know if it's as difficult as she made it. So I'll ask y'all, do you think she was trying to throw it a little bit there, or it was just hard for her?
I never got that impression. And if you can ask her if she's on this, who knows? Yeah. But I just think, I've played one other game where it was trying to shoot a basket. a ball into a basket, and it seems easy, but this person just missed and missed and missed. Sometimes it just happens that way. Maybe I'm wrong, but no point in the game did I think that was, what she was trying to do.
No. And also it's like, it is nerves. Like you saw earlier in the season with Jess, like she hit the first two, no problem. And then she gets to the third one and she keeps messing up. And It doesn't matter how encouraging everybody is. It's just like the nerves of like, somebody might be going home. Everyone's watching me. The other team's catching up. Like it can really like thwart you and like throw you off balance. So I don't think she threw because like she was really apologetic afterwards. Now, was I happy that she didn't win? No, but again, you can't really do much in those situations. I wish we could have swapped because I would have ran out there. But
what was the thought, Paige, when you crushed the puzzle and then you crushed the sandbags in the bucket? Are you guys like, oh shit, we got this? Like this, we're gonna steamroll these dudes again.
I can't tell you what I feel like I've been in so many of these challenges, and we all probably have, especially if you like play a couple of these. You see enough times that it's really not about the beginning of these challenges; it's how it ends. So I think even with a lead off the top, my head's just kind of always at like, but it's not done yet. It's not done yet. A lead is great, but a lead isn't the win. Especially with something like this, where there's so many different elements. Everyone has a moment of like pure spotlight on them. Like this is a challenge where people are just, it's whatever you step up for. Maybe it goes in your favor, maybe it doesn't. Especially something I find with throwing. Throwing is something I'm really bad at. So in the moment watching Katie do it, the reason also that I jumped on the puzzle was because I was so scared of throwing. Like that's not my bag. The puzzle is my bag. So watching Katie struggle with this, my heart was just going out for her because I was like, I would be right there. And like, yeah, at that point, you obviously want the win, but you're not thinking about like, oh no, we're losing. It's more like, oh shoot, come on, my pal, you got this.
I'm sorry, Katie, but I was just hoping you would continue to just struggle because I knew that if I had the chance, like I was going to be good at that. I knew going in like I could do that and it wasn't going to be a problem. And so I was just praying that once she got there, she would just struggle mightily, and she did. So, obviously
you can talk about me on puzzles, but like DB with something to throw.
If you give me something to throw, I got it. I mean,
it's going to shake the earth.
Throwing, catching, running, and I think that's why the flag football, Chad, like that pissed me off more than anything that we've done so far.
That was one of my favorite moments of the game, to be honest with you, because I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, Joel, but I feel like that strategy was, mine that I came up with. And it was simply the fact that, I felt we had a few more athletic people, taller people, longer strides. And I know I'm faster than people get me credit for. I am shorter, I am bigger, but I can move when I need to. And so I said, offense. This is a game of offense, taken by surprise, and it worked, and we needed it, right? So, like, if we lost that one, we lose 3 people in the first night, and you guys only lose 1, and the game's very different. We went into that last night, or to sleep on day 1 on like a high from winning that, and then Steven got the bottle of wine. We had the bottle of wine, and it was a good way to end day 1. Unfortunately, day 2, didn't go so great in terms of numbers for us in the swap, but.
It was an epic moment. Like usually, like before the challenge, we'll all come together and be like, "What do you think? What do you think?" For this challenge, Chad locked in. Like Chad became like an NFL coach. Like, all right, here's what we're doing, guys. So I need you over here. If this happens, you're gonna go over here. And I'm like, oh my god.
That's where we went wrong because I know that T asked me, "What do you think the strategy is?" And I said, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how to play this game. But clearly Chad knew what he was doing because you're right. Like after it all went down, like we realized that you guys had a solid plan on this. And, I just gotta, sometimes you win some, you lose some, but when you get beat, you just gotta tip your hat and go, hey, I'll do better next time, and I will do better next time. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
A lot of people in the comments are backing up the fact that they believe that Katie wouldn't throw a challenge. She had numbers on the tribe, that she was in the original Thane OG tribe or alliance. She was on the bottom of that 4, which, that wouldn't make her, want to throw it. I guess she would have to prove herself. But, when you look back at that challenge and you lose, for you, Paige, are you worried? Like knowing that you got to go to tribal, but also knowing that the numbers are in your favor. Are you worried?
Oh, first off, before we finish this challenge, speaking of tipping hats, Tasha simply put that puzzle together in a way I've never seen someone put it together that fast. And that was incredible. And I have to say it out loud publicly. Because I remember like watching Tasha run to it and being like, that's a hard puzzle. We'll be okay. We're done. Like,
I don't think she knew. Like, I think she was surprised that she finished.
Yeah.
But she crushed it. Yeah.
I just wanted to shout that out because that was amazing. Going into this round,
Ayla's got jokes over here. Got jokes.
She's got jokes.
I'm weak.
Going into this round, I mean, you really should never be comfortable as having watched from afar what had happened on the other tribe. You never know until the end. So I think there's a certain level of like, I was like, I think I have enough decent favor with my new tribe mates who I've just learned and met. I felt like I had decent enough connections that I didn't think I would be the name. Maybe we'll see. And then on the other side, like with the original Thane numbers, we had numbers. I was not comfortable, but I was like, I think we can be okay, but we're not positive.
It's like before the tribe swap, it's those tribals where I think we all felt okay, but not like 100% like certain on anything.
Yeah, especially with how many things were floating around publicly, slightly secretly. Yeah. I just picked up a safety without power, so I also knew that like if push came to shove, if I got
it,
if my spidey sense was tingling, I was out.
Well, so the market comes into play. Santi and I go to the market, and this is the first time I had a chance to go to the market. And to be honest, like I envisioned it to look and be something totally different. I don't know what I thought it was going to be, but Santi had been in there before and clearly knew exactly where to go. And he picks up safety without power. And I'm like, I wish I had that. Like I would have scooped that up if I knew exactly where that was. But what in hindsight, I should have asked him, now knowing that, at the time we were in a alliance together and now we're, on 2 separate tribes at the moment. What would it take for me to get that away from him? Or would he even entertain the idea of me buying it off him or taking it and giving it back to him, or would even trust me to do something like that? Because I felt once Thane swapped and the power of the idols that were purchased were gone, I still felt like we were in a very bad spot, even though we had just got someone to flip and we were trying to turn the tables and things were good. But I just kept saying to myself, let's see if we can get to the next thing. If we get to the next thing, we'll be back together and then we can sort this all out. And now this really hurts my feelings. Santi,
you would have asked.
I know. I just, that's why you can't be afraid to ask.
There was a precedent. It didn't really go shown, but there was somebody in the game who gave away an advantage. I gave mine to Paige, which didn't come into really play much. But when I did go to the market, I think it was the end of day 1. My tribe gave me all their shillings, and Jess bought a hidden immunity idol because she knew right where to go. and I ended up getting I had enough of my own shillings to buy a mystery box. And so I decided to buy that, figuring Tasha already got the white Christmas gift. There's got to be something of value in this next one. And it ended up being like, I think it was called the Robin Hood advantage, which when played would entitle me to half of somebody's shillings. And I didn't tell anybody on Lorne about this. I kept this very secret. And then when we swapped, I tried to use that as, a bargaining chip to build trust, and ended up giving that to Paige, which you did try to use later on in the game, but you weren't able to in that specific instance. So it never really came into play, but I did give that one away.
Yeah. And because of that, it was the reason I was advocating for Chad to stay, particularly like dropping little things going into this round. Once again, we had 2 rounds to like chill and hang out. So I was mentioning I think Chad should stay around. So that did work a lot with me. And as we went into this round, that was something that was very relevant in my head. We'll talk more about me and that little piece of paper later.
Yeah.
In a recap that's not today.
So
but yes, do know that that did go a long way with me. And it is a big reason I wanted you to stay around, because that meant a lot.
So my question for Chad, you and Joel, is there wasn't a whole lot of footage of the actual prior to you guys, the talking prior to going to tribal. There was a little bit, but not a whole lot. Did you guys have time to even discuss anything? And Joel, I'll start with you. Obviously, I'll save Chad for his part because he's got a little bit more to give to it. But for you, what was the main objective? Who did you go to, and where were you trying to secure your spot in the game? Who did you talk to? Who did you try to align with, and kind of, make yourself available to be like a free agent to work with anybody?
So I think going into this round, there was a little bit of a side effect of what happened the first round, where we went to tribal back to back. It wasn't back to back. You guys went in the middle, but it pretty much was back to back. Whereas your guys' first vote, I believe, was kind of clear cut, but the second vote was messy. Our first vote and our second vote was kind of the same. And we didn't get a post-mortem for our first vote. So usually after a vote, you want to go and reinforce hey, I got you, I did this, to build trust, right? And to see okay, who's actually spearheading this? Because then you can kind of rally the troops against them, right, or maybe work with them. There's a lot of nuance in strategizing post-vote, but we didn't get that. And then we won, and it kind of just solidified all of us as a 7. Me, Chad, Scott, and Steven were trying to do 2 different alliances on both sides, but because we just were getting defeated the whole time, had those 2 tribals, all voted the same, we were all one. And this is it makes it harder going into a swap, because sometimes you can just be hey, this person didn't vote like us, or hey, this person's causing mischief, so we're fine with getting them out. But it was almost impossible to do that. So immediately Chad, Ayla, and I was we're just going to stick together. We're going to try to make something happen. By that time, I had the half idol that I told Chad about. Ayla had the other half. So I was if we can figure out.
How'd you get that?
So the first challenge that you guys lost, I went to the market, and then Hannah went to the market, and then Natasha played her advantage so that she can also go to the market. So we go in. At first, we're should we spin the wheel? I was down with spinning it, but then I was you guys might need something in here, so I don't want to get the loser turn and then it's all wasted. And I was trying to get the girls to strategize. I'm okay, let me help you guys get a plan. But they were so frantic, and I think that you guys giving them your coins kind of muddied the water a little bit, because they felt guilty in buying something and voting you guys out with it. I was just do it. They're not gonna ask for it back after they get voted out. It's your coins. But they were no, they gave us these coins. And so strategy talk just did not happen. So I just grabbed the only thing that I thought was going to save us, because there was the safety without power, but that was more of a defensive kind of power. And the only thing that was offensive was the half idol, but it had to be played by 2 separate people.
Did you know that Ayla had the other half? Or
Yeah,
you just looked and only saw half and you were like, I know somebody else has the other half?
So you get to choose who had the other half, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at first I wanted to give it to Paige, but I was like, I kind of want to like solidify my alliance more. And thank you. I kind of wanted to solidify my alliance more. And what if I give it to Paige and Paige is like, you know what? I'm not playing it. And I didn't want like a tie situation from like season 32 where like Scott looks and Ty's like, nope. And I go home. So I was like, I'll give it to somebody in my alliance. And I just chose Ayla as somebody to give it to. So we had the half and half idol. And I really did not want to lose because I was already like planting seeds with Tara and Santi and trying to rope in Paige, like being everybody's best friend, except for Katie. Katie gave me nothing, absolutely paid me dust. But yeah, I was trying to like set myself up so I'm not the first target at least. So going into that round, we make a plan. We're like, we're not going to turn on each other. We got each other's backs. So we're like, okay, we just have to come up with somebody who we're going to all vote for in order for it to ricochet onto that person. By this point, we know Tara has this idol thing that saves 2 people. We don't know whether she can play before or after the vote, but we just know she has something. And we know Santi has an idol. So the group consensus was Tara. This was hard for me because I wanted to work with Tara, but I couldn't push and be like, let's do someone else, right? Because I don't want it to look like I already flipped. I want to play the middle. So I'm like, okay, let me just play this round out. Hopefully the target will shift. And then I was getting told by like Tara and Santi, like, hey, it's Ayla. Ayla's going. And I was like, okay, this is perfect because now we can play the idol. And then we can bounce and get somebody else out. And so I was trying to like kind of work around both alliances without like sticking my neck out. Because again, for me, I feel like in this game, it's too early.
Yeah.
Well, sorry. And then, so it was kind of chaotic because we're all like, okay, but if you see us with the other tribe, just know that like we're lying to them. Like it's not true. It's whatever we say here. Mm-hmm. And so we landed on Tara. We all go around, you like have our speed dating or whatever. And then the last minute before we get, I'm like, I gave Ayla the other half because I'm like, here, you should have it so that you have the power to play it where you want. I didn't want it to be like, oh, I forgot it at camp or something like that. I wanted her to feel safer. But then last minute, it switched to Chad. And I really didn't have that much time. I ran to Ayla. I was like, oh, it's Chad now. You can play it for Chad or you don't need to play it. Like, what do you want to do? And at that point, she had made her mind up that she was going to play it for herself. So knowing this, like, I knew that even if I voted against the other alliance, that Chad was going home. And so, like, that's why I'm in the booth. I'm like, oh my God, like, I didn't want to do this. I wanted to work with Chad, but I have to blend in order to get to the next stop. And then, then that's what happens. But it was just like, it was so much going on at once. And I felt kind of like powerless, even though I had a lot of information, Yeah.
Yeah. Santi was the mastermind behind flipping that.
I think because he was asking me who flipped it, and I think it was a bit of there's a few different inputs because I don't remember. It was Ayla for reasons of like, she kind of was at that point the least kind of connected with the 4 of us. Like I was really vouching for Chad because he had given me this advantage. Joel was pretty locked in with people for many different reasons. So Ayla was decided for those reasons. And then I think there was a couple of different things kind of happened at the same time. My perspective and remembrance of it, of how that switched, was I think someone remembered, and maybe Joelle, you can also give input, because I've always wondered if you maybe told Santi, because you were so close, that you had this idol. Yeah, like yeah, Santi, I think it was a few people.
Santi sarcastically, I think,
Santi
is
says
saying it's
not
me.
Maybe it could have been Katie that flipped it.
Like, I think Katie drove a big part of it, because there was someone kind of figured out, like, oh yeah, there was that broken idol, they could have that. And so it was kind of like this, like, oh yeah, maybe that's happening. And then kind of in that last round, once again, the context of we've had 2 rounds of getting to know everyone very chill, and then to go into a strategizing round. Katie and I both had similar conversations at different times with different members of E3. And I remember us like having both a moment of like, did that feel weird to you? And for me, that conversation was with Chad, and you can see that conversation in the background of one of the shots. And Chad and I are having a conversation, and like, once again, the context, Chad has done a lot of work with me to like gain my trust. He's given me an advantage. And then we have this conversation where I'm like, he's not being real with me, and I don't know what it is. And we'd already had the conversation putting together like, oh, there's this other advantage thing. And so I had this conversation with the chat, and I was like, something's not clicking, and I don't know what that is anymore. And then I think when Katie came back in with the 4, she had a similar conversation with some group of the 3, being like, something's afoot. We should flip it, and we shouldn't tell anyone we're flipping it. So that's how it flipped. And then with the context, it kind of was like, oh yeah, that makes sense with everything we have. So that's kind of why it flipped, my understanding. So I'm willing to say that Katie flipped it. Like, that was Katie's drive, with kind of like a combination of like, this piece came in, and then this piece came in, and this piece came in. What I'd love to know, Joelle, who told you that it flipped? Was it Santi?
It was Santi. It was very last minute. It was as I'm going into the cabin, Santi's like, it's Chad. So now I'm trying to convince Ayla that it's not her, but I can't give up Santi. I can't be like, oh yeah, they told me, right? So I'm like, yeah. I think you have nothing to worry about. I think it's Chad. And she's like, they could be lying to you, which like, but again, I'm like on a tightrope where I'm like, so just, and there's like fire like beneath me, and I'm like trying to like balance between both alliances, and it just was really hard. And like, I mean, in retrospect, because now we know that Tara has the super idol, even if Ayla plays it for Chad, Tara will play the super idol for herself, and we would most likely revote. And if everything like goes according to plan, then Ayla probably would go home. So, and yeah.
So Ayla's saying that Katie said that she was going to get it off her, and then told me after they had changed it. But she obviously, what do you believe in this situation? It's so last minute and to the point, but
like it was literally like 2 minutes before we were getting it ready.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't have enough time to like get everybody together, And
it's
so
the worst. It's the worst when the plan goes afoot, like as you're walking the tribal, and then one of 2 things happen. You don't have any more conversation about it, and then you're lost when you go to actually write somebody's name down, or tribal just gets out of hand and crazy, which, I mean, welcome to Thane.
Yeah.
Chad,
I think cameras were like coming up to be like, time to go to tribal, and this 4 went like, the votes changed as Chad. So when you see all of us going into the voting booth being like, well, it's different now. Like, it was down to the wire. And also like, hats off to Katie, like wanting to flip this and knowing the timing to drop it at, because we were, it was like, it was in the air, it was being talked about. And then Katie coming and being like, we have to switch because ABC. Boom, done.
Yeah. My question is, Paige, like, so when we first all got together and we were exchanging information, and we're like, oh yeah, this happened on this tribe, and Travis told us about this idol that Tara has. Was there any like, did you have any like motivation to like tell us like, hey, that's bullshit, she actually has the super idol? Or were you kind of like paralyzed by fear to be like, I don't want to go against that,
Oh, it's so much simpler than that, Joelle. When you were describing what you knew, I simply did not comprehend in the moment that, like, I was just like, oh, they know about the Super Idol. Like, yeah. I didn't even comprehend that you had the wrong info.
Oh my God.
Like, I didn't, it wasn't until later. Like,
I think what's crazy, Paige, Joelle, if you would have asked, I think she would have flat out told you, because we 100%. Made the assumption that everybody knew.
Yeah.
Yes.
See,
so like, you know,
we didn't know. And that kind of changes like my motivation, because I thought I was doing like Tara and Santi a favor. Like, listen, I'm trying to save you guys, like, you know, but in reality, I should have been trying to like get them to burn their freaking 100%. Weapons. You know, I didn't realize the Super Idol, like huge.
Well, and like, because I remember those kind of first conversations of like, oh yeah, and like we know that like Santi has this, Tara has, and I was like, oh yeah, great, they know about it. Like, it was very, very off the cuff. Like, okay, great, you know where everything is, sweet. I don't have to tread that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very simple. I just did not know.
Let's switch gears, Chad. Obviously, you guys lose the immunity challenge, and so now you have a chance to fight for your life. I mean, are you under the impression once you guys lose that it could be you, or are you still in a different headspace where it might be me, but I think it's going to be someone else other than me?
No, I mean, I think for me it was you know, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Like, I had a pretty good inkling. Like, I think me and Ayla both knew it's probably not Joel. He had done a really good job of ingratiating himself, building relationships with a lot of people. And so, I mean, amongst the three of us, Joel, myself, and Ayla, we even said, like I'm going to tell people I'm flipping to Ayla. Ayla, you tell people you're going to flip to me, right? And then hopefully we can make a move with this joint idol. You know, and the thinking in my mind at the time was, you know, and I felt I made a good relationship with Paige. I think I made one with Katie. You know, Joelle, you said Katie didn't give you anything. I kind of felt the same way about Santi, you know, like, and that makes sense because he was so close to you. And same thing, like, I felt I made a decent connection with Tara. But my thinking was like, if we have an opportunity to make a big move, we need to take it. And that would be combining this idol and, you know, getting them to vote for Ayla. She plays it, and then Tara goes home. We didn't know, though, that it was a Super Idol, which, you know, knowing that now, even if that worked, she uses it, and then, you know, I go home if the vote had been on Ayla or something. So had we known it was Super Idol, the play in that case would be, you know, Ayla and I vote for Tara, Joelle votes for Katie, you all four vote for Ayla, she uses it. You know, Tara has to save herself, and then that one vote for Katie or something would have worked, and that would have been a big move. But of course, we couldn't do that or plan for that because we didn't know it was a Super Idol. And so for me, I was going to hope that the relationships that I built was buying me enough goodwill that they would vote for Ayla, knowing that she was going to play this idol. Like, I told, you know, Paige and the entire tribe, you know, the other people that I was with them, when I obviously wasn't, I voted for Tara. You know, I literally have a tattoo that says out swinging with nothing left to prove. Like, I'm going to go out swinging one way or the other. I wasn't going to, you know, my thinking was, all right, if this works, we're likely going to emerge, and at least we'll have 5 people. And my position then improves, right? Because I have Natasha on the other side, who I know is with me and has a hidden immunity idol. Joelle and Ayla and I would have survived this, and Hannah was so close to Ayla, and we knew it. I'm like, that's a very powerful 5 if we can just get there. It was along those lines, my thinking too, like you've seen in this episode just briefly, that I did construct a fake hidden immunity idol, right? And I thought it was pretty decent, and I had Natasha's like real parchments and stuff to help try to sell it. And I thought about using it in this round, or like trying to, you know, bring it out or scare some people with it. But my thinking was, A, if I can survive this, it's going to have more value down the road. And also, B, if I bring this up right now, then Joelle or Ayla are going to feel even more threatened, right? Because if there's only 3 of us to choose from, and I'm bluffing that I have a hidden immunity idol, it would behoove them to just go and say, you know, that's fake. So, you know, save themselves. And, you know, that made sense to me. It's what I would have probably have done in that situation. So I didn't decide, you know, to bring that into the equation at all. I just hoped that it would work out in my favor, but I had a strong inkling. You know, I'm a poker guy. I can read people. I felt pretty like this isn't in my favor. I need to get lucky here. And then I really knew my goose was cooked when Joelle took a very long time at the confessional, the voting urn, because this should be fine to share. I don't know why, but Joelle and I actually had the same ride from Rochester into the game.
Yes.
I had asked production, like, will I be riding by myself? And they had said yes. But that morning, something changed, and they did let us, hey, you're going to ride with somebody. And we stopped at a grocery store along the way because we had to pick up some supplies or what have you. And we had some minimal conversation. We never talked game. We never said, hey, if we get anything like that. But then we get to the campsite, and I remember thinking, like, hey, we don't want people to see us arriving together, right? Because that just wouldn't have good optics. So Joelle got out of the vehicle, like down the road, and walked in while I got dropped off. But then when we both ended up on Lorne, I was pretty shocked that we ended up on Lorne together. And we never talked about it. Like I said, there was nothing preconceived. But for me, it was one of those things like, all right, I'm going to hope that's like he feels the same way that I do, that like that's enough of a little thing to at least get us to the early part of the game. And we did have that good connection. We had a working relationship throughout the game. And so then when he did take so long at the voting urn, I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's me. The option I think even briefly mentioned Ayla using the idol on me, but like I don't expect her to do that. I probably wouldn't do it if the roles were reversed. And so it was just one of those, like, you see it coming, but
I think you could see it on your face when Ayla plays it for herself. I think at that point you're like, oh shit, I think it's me.
I mean, like, at that point it's like either this plan we concocted is going to work, which now in hindsight never could have, right? Because we didn't know it was a super item, right? Mm-hmm. So that was a little discouraging going out of the game. Like, oh, okay, like even if in a world that did exist, it still likely results in my elimination. So I'm flattered to hear though from Paige and others who chimed in, like, that it flipped last second and that I was in consideration, because like, as opposed to it just being me the whole time, so to speak. So
yeah. Ayla said that she did try to connect and talk to a lot of people about strategy, but the fourth Thane besides Katie, they weren't interested in working with her. And she felt like she was the kid at, not welcome at the lunch table. I don't know. I wouldn't want anybody to feel like that. Ayla, come on now.
I felt like I think with Ayla
chats. We just hadn't connected strategically.
Yeah.
From my perspective, two things. Like, I felt I connected with Paige pretty strong at the marooning, right? And like, had we been on the same tribe, I have no doubt we would have worked very closely together. Unfortunately, that's not the way it went. And then for Ayla, I gotta say and give some credit in terms of, early on in Lorne, she certainly wasn't somebody I was talking a lot of strategy with or working super close with, right? I was working very closely with like Natasha, and her and the other girls just weren't gelling. Like, I was trying to figure a way to get them to work together, and it just wasn't working. And for that reason, I didn't really have a lot of strategic conversations with Ayla and Hannah until probably pretty late on day one. And then on day two, when it was Joelle, Ayla, and I that got switched, that's when I really got to work with Ayla very, very closely and realized, man, I wish I would have been doing this earlier. She was a great ally. She, stuck to the plan that we had come up with. And even though it didn't work, I've always appreciated that. And, we have one of those things where it's like, you look back and be like, yeah, maybe I should have worked with that person a little sooner, and who knows what it could have come.
Well, Ayla said if you would have made merge, she thinks she would have had a better chance of making something happen because you were the glue guy. I mean,
he was the glue guy.
I do see a lot of glue,
but I will say that, like, even though like Chad is like a leader, he was able to hide his threat level like very early in the game. Like, you wouldn't have pegged him as like somebody who's like calling the shots, but there was like subtle things that you were doing to like better your position. And I think that is like a mark of like a really good player.
I'd only played one LRG before this, and it was a survivor-based one, and I went in injured. So this was a little bit of a redemption for me in terms of at least getting to start a game 100%. And that was something, instead of having a lingering what if. And so I was very appreciative of, the production of casting me and giving me this opportunity. And I was really happy with, like in poker terms, right? And you can play a poker tournament, you can play perfect. And if you just get unlucky with the cards, there's nothing you can do. You can play your best game and just get unlucky and lose. And like, I'm very happy with the game I played. And it just, it sucked to when we had that random swap to get kind of number screwed on it. And, just to have all the other different factors, like I get it. The equation added up to me. I wish it wasn't the result, but, it made a lot of sense. And, it's one of those things like, you play the what if game, but like, I think it would have been fun to get to one more spot and make that merge and then reconnect with Hannah, reconnect with Tasha and see what could have happened. But, that's not what happened. And, in poker, you gotta just live with the results. You can't regret it. The worst thing about it is, and I always told people this, is like, if I bust a poker tournament getting unlucky, I can just enter a next one the next day. You can't do that with these LRGs, right? So that's the bitter pill to swallow.
Well, lucky for you. Lucky for you, Chad.
Mayhem except 2026.
I don't know. Can I watch? I don't know if I want to play.
I can
tell you what is one thing that is clear. If you do play, you're sleeping outside, man. Like
wow.
You won't be allowed anyway.
I'll bring a tent.
Man,
oh my God,
that's crazy. But Chad, being your last episode, any last minute things that you want to get off your chest? Anybody you want to call out, or any just wonderings like why certain things happened?
So, I mean, it's a fun game. I got to watch, the seasons before. I had a couple friends play from the previous LRG that I did, and it was just one of those like, all right, I want to do it. The only regret, like I'm sure a lot of people has, man, like I wish that pond was open because I'm a pretty decent swimmer as well. So
the West Coast, we know to swim.
I don't think I'm built for water. However, like I can swim and I wouldn't drown or anything like that. I would make my way through it. I just think that the challenge of having the water throws like a very different element into a game. And you don't typically see a water-based event in a lot of these LRGs. So it would have been cool to like have that thrown in. And I know talking to Jason, earlier, they were disappointed in the fact that they couldn't have that element, but I'm sure they're keeping it close to the vest and they are going to reuse that at some point.
I'll say real quick too, if you don't mind, one of my regrets, I can't say regret because it was out of my control, but I do look back at the game and think, man, I wish I had an opportunity to play with you, right? We got to connect a little bit after the game. And then with T as well, because she was such a force and a character in this game. And just the way things shook out, we were never on the same side of things. And I had a little bit with Jess because we were at the market together. But I wish I would have had the chance to, play with some of the other castmates that we had. But, that's the way the cookie crumbles. So
Jason said that's why we need to run it back. Look, all I hear is that it's not a no. It's not shut down. The idea is floating around.
I've only heard yes.
Right.
Yeah, I don't
love the idea.
I don't think they've ever done it. I don't know, like in other LRGs, if it's been done, but it'd be interesting, to say the least, to be able to do it again. Paige, any last tidbits before we shut this thing down?
Ooh, from this round, I think that's all for me. Yeah, we hit puzzles, we had flips, we had a secret handed off advantage. So a lot happened, and we had a mock tribal.
Yeah,
I mean,
we had a mock tribal, which was like, I'm so grateful that Ayla brought that into the game, and that we all jumped into that so fast because it is also one of my like highlight moments. That's something that you're like. It lives outside of the game, and I'm so glad that it exists. I hope everyone knows it's with full love for everyone that was impersonated and sent up in that.
Like I said, I thought it was hysterical, and if you can't laugh at yourself, then like you're not laughing much. But Joel, anything that we didn't hit, anything you want to cover?
Yeah, I have one last thing. I do want to say that like I never come into these games and like am like, oh my God, I can't wait to like play with everybody that I know. And this happened to me like a year or two ago where I played Survivor PA, shameless plug. And I went in with like two of my best friends, and literally everyone knew about it. And it like I couldn't get anything done, and I was like second out. And from then I was like, okay, no more pre-gaming. I'm not going to tell anybody about what game I'm playing. And so showing up to the camp, I knew Sam, I knew Santi, I knew Steven. I knew of Katie. I didn't know Katie. We played a game, but it was like two separate games, so we never had any interaction. But I did have familiarity with her. And I never like I tried to stay loyal to the tribe that I'm on.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows, like if I didn't know Santi, maybe I would have been going home this round, because I didn't have that automatic like connection that I can like take advantage of. But I don't want it to seem like that was the only reason why I made the decision I did, because in the beginning I had a clear connection with Sam, and I wanted to save her, but I knew that I knew that like there was more value in sticking with my tribe than trying to save somebody that I already knew. Right. And so unfortunately it's a part of the game for in LRGs because it's such a small community, and I'm sure that like you guys will experience this when you play more games, that you're going to run into people that you've seen or you know. And like I hate that like some people's experiences were kind of like they felt like it was taken away from them because of that. And so I apologize for that if that's like the sentiment. Just know that like I never come into these games like I'm only going to work with everybody that I know. And who knows, even if that wasn't already an advantage for me, maybe like I'm going home this round or last round or whatever. But yeah, that's what I have to say. I just wanted to apologize for that. But yeah, the game is great. Apply for All Stars. Well, I think applications are closed. Don't apply for All Stars.
Done.
Don't apply 2026 because we're running it back apparently. And so yeah, apply 2027.
There you go.
And if we run it back next year, we'll all know each other.
Yeah.
So
it'll be great.
It's an even playing field.
Santi, mock tribal, core memory, and then Jason said that they used to give tribes props and have them perform a skit, which I feel like Paige, you could have directed that to a T, and that would have been your thing.
Get me in there. Yes. I'm ready.
So the new bar for tribal mock tribal skits is set. So moving forward, all these other casts, you got some work to do.
Yeah, I want to see more LRG casts mock tribaling.
Yeah.
Make it a challenge, like a reward challenge.
Please.
Do it. I'll give you guys the floor for a minute or two. Chad, I'll start with you. Anything you want to plug or promote? Any games that you're playing? Anything that that's out there that you want to throw out there for people looking for games? What do you got?
I'll say this. I learned a lot playing Survivor Angelica, and I very much look forward to taking it into some things later this year. Want to say thank you to Jason and the rest of production for giving me the opportunity to come and be a part of it, and to the cast. It was fun. I really enjoyed getting to know everybody that I did, and I think it's a testament that a lot of us are still close, still talk, and it was fun. Like I had a very good time, and despite not going as far as I had hoped, I feel like I tried to make the most of it, and was very appreciative of the experience.
Absolutely. You were a Definitely a great dude. I'm glad we got to connect when we did on the route home after the game was all over. That was fun, and I've said it before. When you came on the other podcast, you meet people that come from different walks of life, and like you're definitely a guy that has got a very interesting story, and like you're the type of person like you just want to hang out with because you're just, you know, you got so many neat stories, but also you're a cool dude, and like I appreciate that. So well, hopefully we cross paths again, man, and it'll be different. I promise it'll be different.
I will plug real quick. I do host a podcast as well. I work in the poker industry, as I've alluded to. It's the Poker News Podcast, and we are nominated for Podcast of the Year in our industry. So I'll be heading back to Vegas in a couple of weeks to go to the award show, and fingers crossed, the Final Four. I can't make the Final Four in Survivor Angelica, but I'll take the Final Four in these nominations.
Got you, Paige. What do you? I mean, are you playing any games? Anything you want to put out there? Promote? Plug?
I can't really talk about anything that I'm up for, but I'm hopeful. I have some applications are out. If you're listening to this and you're thinking about casting me, you should cast me. That's what I'll say. I'll plug myself. You should cast me. If there's an application for me in your box, you should cast me.
She's terrible at puzzles.
Terrible.
She's not good
at puzzles. Just awful. And if you play with me, I'm bad at puzzles. Life-wise, things are good. I'm about to go on tour with a show with one of my best friends. I'm so excited. And I move next week.
Wait, where?
Just a new apartment. So no. Can you
don't.
imagine? I'm like, I'm moving to Angelica, New York. Like,
that's how you practice for 2026.
That's how you practice. You live there.
You live there.
It's like, Paige, what have you been doing? I never went home.
I've been here in this lake.
All right, Joel, what do you got, man? Any games you playing? Anything you want to plug or promote?
So I might be playing something, but I can't say what. As for plugging, Survivor Bloomington is coming out next month. I got the opportunity to play that 2 months before Angelica. Casey is like, he puts so much love into his game, so definitely check it out. And they're casting. I think March 1st applications are going up, so definitely give that a check out. And that's it. No, I'm not doing anything fun. I'm not going on tour or going to Vegas. I'm going to school tomorrow, so that's fun. I live a pretty boring life outside of LRGs. Oh yeah, school.
Education is amazing.
Knowledge is power.
School.
But yeah, I mean, anybody who's like thinking about playing a game, do it, because you get to like have a podcast at 9:00 with people from all around the freaking North America. Like, who said talking to strangers is bad?
Very true. Very true.
Strangers.
I'll say this, okay, and I'll just leave it.
Oh God!
When we run it back,
I'm not saying. All I'm doing is putting it out there. Putting it out there. At this point, I think we got a movement started. We just got to keep pushing. Just keep pushing, man. It'll happen.
Yeah, get in the comments.
If the market comes back, T is gonna like blow.
He is going to burn that thing down. But new episode tomorrow night. Y'all be on the lookout, 7 p.m. Eastern time, YouTube. Check it out. We'll be back next Thursday to recap it. I can't tell you who's going to be on here because that would just spoil it, but I can tell you there will be some people on here next Thursday, and it'll be a good one.
What episode is next?
It's going to be it's going to be crazy. It's going to be we'll just leave it at
storm.
that.
One may say.
One may say the storm might be coming.
May say the storm is coming.
Storm watch.
2025.
2025.
Go if you want to get episodes of recaps. If you want to know what's going on in all the games, you got a plethora of games in the library on YouTube. Check out Live Reality Games on YouTube. If you want to get into a live reality game, if you want to know what's out there, what's available, what's got applications brewing, what's going to be coming down the pipe. Instagram, Live Reality Games Casting, check them out. They're putting stuff out there every single day. I promise you won't miss it. One shameless plug that I want to throw out there, not a shameless plug, but I've been asking for a Survivor game close to where I live in Florida. Like Florida's a big state. Like I'm not looking for it to be like in my backyard. I just somewhere in Florida. Come to find out, University of South Florida has a Survivor club, and they are hosting a game. They've had one season. The season's about to air. I want to say on the 15th, but on the 11th, I'm going to be talking to their group. We're going to talk about the Survivor South Florida, the first season of that. Applications for season 2 will be open on February 9th. So, I'm applying because it's in my backyard. If I don't apply for that one, what am I doing? What am I doing? So, we'll see how that goes. If you want to come down to sunny South Florida, hey, it's beautiful. May never go back, but check that out. But also, hey, I appreciate y'all. It's been fun. It's been great. And we'll be back at it next Thursday. So Live Reality Games Podcast, check us out on anywhere that you stream your podcast. Later. Peace.